Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. I am Brian with Action Corrosion, and what we're going to do today, by popular demand, we've been asked to give more of a step-by-step and a how-to apply Action Corrosion products to a residential HVAC unit. Today we have a little mini split. This is a 1-ton unit. So what we're going to do today is going to strip it completely down. We're going to apply the product and put it back together. This process should take us about 1 hour. But we're going to try to give you a nice comprehensive how-to. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, now that I've actually torn the unit apart, we're going to go ahead and show you some of the key things that you need to make sure you do. So now that we have the unit completely disassembled, the best thing to do is lay out all your panels, leave the unit nice and cleaned up. If you have any oils or any impurities, you want to use a product like a paint thinner, something that will evaporate the oils, because in manufacturing a lot of times these units have oil on them. If you put any coating on top of the oil, the coating is not going to properly adhere. So we're going to take these panels, do a little cleanup using paint thinner. This is actually a lacquer thinner to make sure that we take off the impurities and get all the oils to evaporate. A lot of times we're asked about how do we clean the coils and how do we prep the coils. It's not very difficult. You just want to make sure you take your paint thinner and a rag, okay? You get it nice and soaked, and then you just simply wipe the fins down. That's all you have to do, because that's what we're really worried about. We want to make sure we get all the oils off the surfaces. So as long as you use some nice smooth motions. If you have compressed air, that's great. You can blow through it. But in the worst case scenario, just make sure you have a good rag and clean your fins in the direction of the fin with thinner. Now that we have completely torn apart the unit, we're going to go ahead and apply a couple of coats of Action HVAC Clear. Action HVAC Clear comes in a conveniently packed aerosol, and for commercial jobs, you could use the liquid product applied with an HVOP gun. But for today's purposes, since what we have is a 1-ton mini split, we're going to apply 1 can of aerosol. Remember, when you're applying Action HVAC Clear, 1 aerosol will do the entire mini split. It'll do the coils, it'll do all your electronics, it'll do the cabinet, it'll take care of the whole unit. So 1 can per ton. So 12,000 BTUs equals 1 can of aerosol. You will notice that in order to do this in an organized and timely fashion, I've laid out all the parts that I want to coat. I've completely stripped out the unit, and you can see that I've exposed everything that I need to coat. This way I can do this in an organized manner. I can work my way through the unit, coat the coils, coat the motor, coat the compressor, coat all the electrics, coat the internal parts of the cabinet, and as the parts dry, I can move on to do my second coat. Remember, Action Corrosion, once applied, becomes touch dry in about 15 minutes. So you want to do about 15 minutes between coats. So once the first coat dries, I'll be able to come back and do my second coat. This way I keep my work efficient, and I move through and I keep my motions fluid and get the job done quickly. So let's go ahead and start coating. Now, one of the key things that you want to make sure you do, and this is just a pro tip, and all you guys who are HVAC contractors, you know this, you've seen this before. Right here on most mini splits, this happens to be one of the weakest points. This support, most times because this drain plug clogs up with junk, it floods the pan, and next thing you know, this thing is sitting underwater, creating a lot of rust and creating a lot of problems. So this is a section that we want to make sure we want to go ahead and hit hard and give it a couple extra coats. We want this to be very well coated. Pro tip number 2, you want to make sure that you get good coverage. One of the ways we do it is as we spray the coil, you find a point of reference. So we use the horizontal coil length to make sure that our spray is always catching and we're ready to move on to the next spot. Okay? So always make sure that what you do has a nice overlapping pattern. The overlapping pattern is key to making sure that everything is properly coated. Pro tip number 3, whenever possible, if you have a brand new unit such as this one, try to elevate it to make sure that you can get a good coverage along the pan. We're also going to flip this thing over and cover the bottom of the pan, but we want to make sure that you catch all these edges. Pro tip number 4, when you're coating a unit prior to installation, remember, Action HVAC Clear is non-conductive, which means it does not allow electricity to flow. So if you have not connected or landed your power wires, you need to make sure you protect that area from the coating. So this particular unit is a 110 volt unit. So we're going to go ahead and just protect these terminals to make sure that we do not coat them. Otherwise, when we hook up the power to the unit, it's not going to conduct any electricity. Now we've done the unit, we're going to go ahead and hit all the tins. Now this particular mini split has the PC board inside. A lot of them have them in the outdoor unit, but this particular one has all the controllers right here. I've gone ahead and taken everything apart just so I can show you that we're going to pull the PC board out, okay? And what PC board stands for is printed circuit board. So what we're going to do is we're going to give this printed circuit board a couple of coats to protect it, because just because this board is inside the house doesn't mean that vermin and moisture can't get in it. I'm going to coat the coils as well, and then we're going to let this dry. So our first coat is dry to the touch already. We've already coated the indoor unit once, so I'm going to go ahead and give this system a second coat. We've already given this PC board 2 coats in the back. We're going to coat the front now. Now that we've sprayed all the internals, 2 coats, we've sprayed all the electronics on the indoor unit, on the outdoor unit, we've sprayed the coil, we've sprayed the inside of the cabinet. We're now going to take what's left over and we're going to do the outside of the unit. This is time for pro tip number 5. As you get low on your can, you want to make sure you hit the low areas first, because when you lean the can forward, it actually starts to sputter a little bit. So make sure that you can keep the can as straight as possible. Pro tip number 6, make sure you always apply a couple extra coats right here on the feet. It's a very vulnerable part of the equipment. It rusts heavily because this part of the unit is usually in contact with water, with the concrete, and the area where the unit has actually been installed. So that's my first coat on the outside of the unit. In 15 minutes, when this unit is dry to the touch again, I'll put a second and my last coat on. So we've done our first coat. The unit has now dried. It's been 15 minutes. It's totally dry to the touch. So it's ready for the second coat. So pro tip number 7. One of the reasons that we disassemble the unit first, coat the inside, and then coat the outside is because we know we're still going to have to coat all the coil guards. And that's why we don't even coat the outside of the cabinet until after we've assembled it. Because that way, once we start coating the cabinet, it doesn't matter if we get a little extra coating on the coil. That's only going to provide a little extra protection. So that's why we make sure that once we've put the coil guard on, then we go ahead and spray it too. And while we're at it, we're giving the coil a little extra protection. Okay. Don't be afraid to coat the plastic coil guards and the plastic fan guards. Remember, Action HVAC Clear is UV stable, so it's going to keep these plastics protected from the UV suns, keep them from fading, and keep them from cracking for a number of years. And here you have the finished product. Completely coated HVAC unit, every single portion, outdoor, indoor, coils, cabinet, and electronics. Every portion completely protected with Action HVAC Clear.